Welcome back to Tap Tempo with me, Matt Lang. New year, new shows, and first on the docket is Chongor Goncz of Pensado's Place. But first, Tanya Zagar's debut album Explode came out last week. I produced it. We're both extremely proud of it, and it's a really long time coming for it to finally come out. So go give it a listen. It's on Spotify, Apple, everything. Also, my EP Bleed Together, which is my newest one, that came out also on December 13th. And if you'd like to hear that, you can also find it in all the same places. I think it's the best thing I've done in that style as of this point. NAMM's coming up in a few weeks, and while I'll be on the Avid stage every day doing some Dolby Atmos things, I'm actually taking one of the tracks of Bleed Together and putting it into Atmos, and we'll be displaying how that's done. We'll also be doing a Tap Tempo live on the Sunday of NAMM, and if you're at NAMM, you can come check that out, and if you're not, well, it's going to be broadcast here later, probably the next week after that. So it should be a good time. Now, Chongor Goncz is one of the producers of Pensado's Place, and for those who don't know, Pensado's Place is a talk show that's hosted by Grammy Award-winning mix engineer Dave Pensado and his manager Herb Trowick. In the 6 years that they've been doing the show, which can be viewed in its entirety on YouTube, they've had the most respected mix engineers in the world, such as Tony Maserati and Manny Marroquin, producers such as Greg Wells and Noah Forty Shabib. They've created their own annual award ceremony, which is appropriately titled the Pensado Awards. And on top of that, they've done a ton of educational outreach that really expands far beyond just a simple talk show. In the process of this, they've really cultivated a really beautiful worldwide community of producers, engineers, artists, students, and basically anyone curious about the world of music production. Basically, they're doing important work, and if you can't tell, I'm a really big fan of what they're doing. I actually had the sheer pleasure of being a guest on the show last year, and personally, that was definitely a bit of a dream come true for me. Chongor was gracious enough to come down and talk a lot about what goes on behind the scenes and what's next for Pensado's Place. Here's Chongor.
One of the first guests might have been Tony Maserati back in the day.
Yeah.
It might have been Tony. We didn't have Manny on until a little later in the year when he got comfortable. That was actually a really fun experience when he came on the show, because at that point Manny didn't have too many interviews, and I could be wrong, at least just from what I saw. And since Manny was Dave's mentee for such a long time, right, when Dave had Manny on the show for the first time, it was just like, when I spoke to Dave afterwards, there was like a really personal thing for him. He was just really happy to have like one of his proteges and someone he brought up with him being on the show. It's been that's special. Yeah, it really was. Yeah, the beginning of Pensado's Place was it's actually interesting. I wasn't aware of the show until maybe episode 60 or so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah, so initially how everything happened is I was going to school, just doing the high school thing. I had a love for audio, and then when I went to school at the Art Institute for audio engineering, and I did that whole thing, and fortunately I put in a lot of hard work there, so I got the chance to be the broadcast engineer. Right. I actually got recommended by one of the teachers to go do this, see how you like it. Like, we think you'd be great for it. So I started doing that, and from the hold on, I'm sorry. I'm starting to go into like the journey of Pensado's Place.
Well, how did you get there?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So the way I got with Pensado's Place is initially I went to the Art Institute for audio engineering, and I went there as a passion to make house music. I was making music under a DJ named Sigor. Right. Is a nickname I got back in the 7th grade that ended up just sticking.
Fair enough.
I'm not making house music anymore, doing that thing, but the nickname still stuck. It just feels part of me. Yeah. So when I went to AI, I was fortunate enough to be really good at just making stuff sound good. And the teachers noticed, and I got recommended to be their broadcast engineer. So about episode 60 or so
of Pensado's,
about Pensado, maybe 60, 70, they eventually came over from where they were filming and started filming the show at the Art Institute. So I went.
Oh, I remember. That wasn't the building that I went to
4 years ago or something like that.
Honestly, it might have been.
It was in Hollywood?
No, it was in Santa Monica.
Okay, it wasn't.
Yeah, so we were at the Art Institute over down on Ocean Park.
Okay.
Yeah, so they did the show for a super long time there, and while I was there, I got to interact with them like week after week, just running sound, micing them up. And once I kind of got comfortable with them doing all that thing, Herb and I's relationship started to grow. There's this one story that Herb tells where in the beginning he called me Chang and didn't like me at all.
He's told me the story actually. But apparently he just stuck around and that he couldn't get rid of you.
He had no other option. But but since the second Herb and I have been working together, it's been a really great relationship.
Yeah.
But him and I's just chemistry. One time we were. He gave me a ride home because at the time in college I didn't have a car.
Yeah.
I was taking the bus all the way from the Valley, 2 hours each way to go down to school for Santa Monica.
Right.
And I was like, "Can you give me a ride home one time?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, not a problem." In his recollection of the story, it's like, he was on the way home. I had no choice. I didn't want to, but I needed to.
When he told me that story, he was much kinder about it. Much more charitable.
Much more charitable.
Yeah.
Thank you, Herb. And so him and I started talking on the way home. And he kind of got insight into my life. I told him why I have the purpose I do, like my aspirations to help my parents, all that stuff. And it was in that moment that I think him and I's like relationship dynamic shifted, and kind of that's when kind of Pensado's Place kind of started to take off. Yeah. It was actually crazy to think about because I went from being just a complete obsessed fan of Pensado's Place, like watching every ITL and episode down to the T. I was literally taking notes, even running sound.
Really? Just
stuff that I could take away when I was done doing like the sound for the show, go home, do my own mixes, and learn what I did because I'd have the exclusive scoop up on Pensado's Place for a few days until it came out later in the week. So I had these tips I was just super excited about, and then after I was doing sound for a little bit, Herb and Dave talked to me. I don't remember when it was, but they're like, we would love for you to do the corner office position in the show. Yeah. At one point in time, it was Dave's assistant, Drew, who was doing the corner office, where essentially where all the viewers will send in the questions, and I'll read them to the guest and the guys on camera.
Right.
And to go from college student to just being an obsessed fan to actually being on the show in this, not condensed, but pretty intensely condensed time, it was crazy, dude. It was legitimately crazy because especially at that point in time, I was going down like the mixing engineer route. So I was like, I get to see all these mixing engineers every week, learn all the best tips. Like,
oh my god! I mean, what an experience, you know?
It was, and it's still going. We just did our 346th episode. We had a greatest hits with Tony Maserati that we actually did at the Art Institute.
No kidding.
Yeah, and that was episode. I think we ran like episode maybe like 126 or something from way back in the day. It was from like 2014.
Speaking of hits, what's been your favorite batter's box? Out of curiosity.
I know why you asked me this.
No.
Legitimately, I'm not lying to you. You have my favorite batter's box.
Oh, don't say that.
I swear to God. I didn't come on your show to lie to you. No one comes on Pensado's Place and is like, what do you do to the kick? All right. Well, what I first do is like, I'm not gonna remember exactly, but you essentially basically told them that you will run your kick drum through something in inverse, and it comes out this way, and just all your answers were just on point.
It's an exponential pitch envelope on a sine wave going into an exponential VCA into an exponential FM input. So if you have all those exponential curves hitting at the same time, we'll multiply the exponential curve, and it becomes really sharp. So that's how you get a really sharp transient. That was all. That's why.
So that's basically what I just said, right?
Yeah, kind of. But
dude, that's when you were on the show, that was a blast.
Dude, that was a dream come true. I mean, because I've been watching the show since it first came around.
Really?
Yeah, because I was living back in New York at the time when I forget how. It must have been, I think I was on it by episode 3.
Oh, wow.
It was, because it was like I was living back with my parents at the time, like after I was, it's like 24 or something, figuring out what the hell I'm doing with my life. And it came on. I just remember like sitting in the attic where there was like a TV and, really getting into this thing. And I watched it religiously for about 2 years straight.
Yeah.
And it was probably once I moved out here, then I just didn't really have the time anymore to watch it all the time.
Yeah, I mean the show is one of those things where it's a constant, and you know we go up on the air every week for an hour, and we have to do that week after week. But the thing I kind of think about is the influence that we have on, obviously, like our industry that you and I are in, or whatever you want to call it, but also the fact that a lot of the information that comes on the show and like the advice that you gave also, these are tips that maybe kids in India or who knows all around the world will never get these tips.
That's the thing that blows me away, is because every year at the awards, when Herb comes on and just talks about like the reach or the stats and everything like that, I didn't realize the syndication of it, like how far it's spread. I mean, in LA, it's so insular, so you forget, you know, the reach of things, and it's really amazing to see just how far this project has gone. You
know what? It's truly crazy. Herb and Dave really did something together that they built a community that everyone loves to be a part of, and the fact that like you and I also get to be a part of that is also.
I mean, it's a huge. I feel so like, I guess, blessed in a way, you know, because it's such a warm and friendly environment of amazingly talented people.
Yeah. And it's all the people at the top that you would, you know, so the thing that I've realized is the higher and higher up you get, the nicer and nicer people get.
Yeah.
You know, the people that have the egos, the personas, like the bad intentions, while they still might get through the top, and I'm sure there's plenty of guys out there, I'm not dissing anyone, but those guys usually get caught in the middle.
Yeah, well, and that's why I think part of it is when you're at the top, you have no reason to be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
You know, you can just exist, and you're not competing with anybody but yourself at that point, and hopefully you kind of know that at this point.
Yeah.
And I think it's once you get lower down the ladder where people are really fighting and playing dirty, that's where it gets really vindictive.
It is, because at that stage, you have to do everything you need to get to the next stage.
Yeah,
and then I think a lot of the people that carry over that same mentality kind of get stuck in the middle.
Yeah,
but
it's hard to grow beyond that too.
Yeah,
because you hit a point where you burn a lot of bridges, and
then you have no more bridges to cross.
No more bridges to cross, and you know, the way down's a lot longer than the way up.
Yeah.
So,
but although that bottom can come for you way faster
anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can put in as much work as you want over as many years, but it could literally come crashing down in the second it took me to snap my fingers. Like,
no, it's unbelievable. And then bouncing back from that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
like how do you bounce back? Like there's not really.
I mean, in a way, Pensado's place started as a bounce back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of not like it's not a revenge story. It's a different word. It's a comeback story. You know, it's really.
It is. Dave had a stroke. What is it? It's 2017. I don't know the exact year he had the stroke, but the show's been around in its 6th year, so I think he maybe had the stroke 2 years prior to that.
Yeah.
And it's literally kind of like starting all over again, and then having even better footing.
Yeah.
It's like, of course, in the beginning, it's really hard. You know, like all of us in Pensado's place have definitely grinded and put in the time. And
yeah, of course.
You've heard all the stories of like getting through all that and like the infancy stages of creating something, and those things weren't excluded from Pensado's place, but we've now got to a point where it's been a great community.
Yeah.
It's been a really great community, and you've seen some of that. Kind of going to the Pensado Awards, doing all that, just experiencing it all.
Well, it's always amazing how grateful everyone is to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's warm. It's really, it's a community that I still, like, because of my own things about myself, I don't really feel like I'm a part of, but it's, you know.
You are.
I know, it's weird, you know, and I know that's my own issue. But, like, I love being on the outskirts of that and watching, because it's really... It's a community show it's a show for a community that's often forgotten, especially these days, where the hell do you find album credits anymore?
Yeah. I mean, you can't really find album credits anymore. Like, unless you want to search all music, you can't really.
Like, who's going to know who's mixing a track anymore?
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, and I wonder how that actually has interacted with the industry?
It's, I mean, just go back to the Pensado Awards for a second. With Chris, CLA, or no, with CLA, Cosign, and Samantha Maloney all being hosts this year, it just adds this great kind of dynamic to it. And then when you take everyone in the pre-party of the Pensado Awards, the thing that at least I kind of observed is exactly what you were touching on, is just like how happy people were just there in the lobby. You know, like there was this family. Everyone was hugging. Everyone was just sociable. You could go up to any of your favorite audio legends and have a conversation with them and tell them how much you like this thing on that album they did or that song, and it just it's an open environment, and it breeds just breeds positivity. Yeah, it just completely breeds positivity.
Well, there's a safety in it too, because I mean, the reality is it's also not open to the public.
Yeah,
you know, so there is. Although we had in the previous years we've done a bunch of GAs, and this year we had a bunch of GA tickets as well. Yeah. But it definitely leans itself towards more of a VIP event, which I think also adds to the appeal of why people want to go there. Because what other event besides maybe NAMM or some other trade show can you go to where you're going to see all these people? Well, I mean, this is much more high level than NAMM. I mean, it's smaller by nature. It's going to be higher level. NAMM is so big.
They're just different animals. You have NAMM, which is this amazing convention.
NAMM's amazing. It's a different beast.
And then you have the Pensado Awards on the other side, which is it's the Pensado Awards.
Yeah, it's niche. It's very specific to one thing,
as Chris calls it, and I like to think of it. It's become the Grammys for our industry. Yeah, you know, like the Grammys you would think are associated with like the music industry, but or at least the Grammys are associated with the music industry, but the Grammys aren't that much associated with like the actual producers and engineers. Like they have the whole P&E wing, which is its own thing, part of that. But you don't have an award show until the Pensado Awards that really honored all the people behind the scenes, all the people that ruined their health to make these songs great. People that spent way too much time in the studio, didn't sleep. Like,
yeah, no one knows who the assistant engineer on a Kesha record is at the Grammys.
Yeah,
no, yeah, that's only in your community. Yeah, and that's important.
It really is, because without the community, you really don't have anything. Yeah, you know, it's like we could do all these things, do Pensado's Place every week, do the Pensado Awards once a year, go around the country, and now this year to be international, doing Pensado's Place stuff or Pensado Awards. But if there's no one there to come actually participate, then
well, I think that's the other thing that, you know, is so important about the show. It's just because of the nature of our work styles of anyone who's, you know, in audio production. Yeah, I mean, it's really insular, and you're usually in a room without very many windows for most hours of the day.
Yeah, not talking to anyone because you're listening.
Right. So it's very easy to feel very alone in that. And then realizing that there is this community that's now apparently global, which is insane to me.
It's actually interesting to speak on the global point. Part of the marketing stuff that we do, we have to take a look at all our analytics and kind of just break down the numbers, just see where things are all the time. And when we go to our Google metrics under YouTube, under the channel, all that stuff, when we go to the countries, it shows that we have, the last time we checked, it was 234 countries and territories.
Yeah, that's insane.
How do you rationalize that? Yeah. And we've had, I don't know, maybe like, the last time I checked, like 130 million minutes of content consumed over the Pensado's Place creation. Yeah. On the low side. So it's like, to think of how much, like that 1 minute is someone in front of a computer watching and learning. Yeah. Can you imagine what information they're learning in that 1 minute and what they might do with that changes the world or changes their life or just.
Well, and what's amazing about that too is how niche of a crowd it is. Like, okay, you could have, you know, a big radio DJ, they get millions upon millions upon millions. But when you guys post, you know, a YouTube video or something, I mean, on average, after a year, they get around 10,000 views. I mean, it's
the hotter ones will do really good.
The hotter one, yeah. But I mean, I've noticed. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not insane. You know, it's very it's specific.
It's respective to the audience size. Yeah, you know, because we're not gonna get the 50 million views that Logan or Jake's gonna get, but we're gonna get the people that are tuning in every week to get a little bit of philosophy, to get a little bit of technical, and to ultimately just. tune into something that they enjoy and feel a part of.
And it's a more valuable listener too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. You know, it's not, no one passively listens to it.
Yeah.
It's not background music.
Yeah. I mean, how do you want to listen to, I mean, when we had Noah 40 Shabib on, and this is a great story. He was talking about the fact that when him and Drake were recording one of their albums together, I think it was the first one that really set them off.
Yeah.
They would record in hotels, and they would choose where they recorded based on like the duvet and the different fabrics in the hotel rooms because that would alter the reflections as they were tracking.
Oh, that's hysterical.
And the thing is, the thing that you don't know is while he's doing all this, he has multiple sclerosis. So you might be going through your own issues at the time where you feel that, you know, things aren't doing that good for you, but having the community there just makes it so, you know, there's other people like-minded and going through similar stuff as you, and that we're all human, that just because you're going through something right now or going through something doesn't mean that it's not going to get better or that you still can't push through it.
Sure.
Like,
and the other thing you can, you know, compare it to is, you know, Noah did it. He made platinum selling albums in a hotel room while fighting MS.
yes.
And you're sad because it's raining outside and that's why you can't make a record?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You know, that's an excuse.
When we were in Toronto for Imstafesta, it was crazy. We show up to the Ryerson and there's 1,700 people.
Oh my God.
1,700. The line was out the door. I got there early to kind of scout everything and make sure everything was good for the guys and just do what I normally do for events. And then once the guys got there, the Uber dropped them off in the wrong spot and just a swarm. Like everyone just came to them to take pictures, and it was just. But when we were in Toronto, one of the guests we had with us was Boy Wonder, and
who's he?
He's an amazing, amazing, amazing producer. For those of you that don't know about Boy Wonder, I'll just let you go Google him right now. Okay, cool. Then now you're back. So now that you know who his credits are and kind of who he is, you would think that he has this big major studio for the kind of songs and acts that he works with. But no, he has a corner in his place.
Is he Toronto-based?
He's a Toronto-based producer.
Yeah.
Toronto-based producer. And he has a corner of his house that has a desk and a laptop, and he does everything he needs there. He doesn't need the fancy studio or the big expensive equipment. Like he can get it all done on a laptop.
Yeah.
So like people don't really have excuses anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I know, especially in like the electronic music world, most people are just laptop.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of like the hip hop world these days too, because I mean, from what I know, a lot of that is like Fruity Loops on a laptop now.
Yeah.
And that gets piped into Pro Tools later when people track on it. But yeah, it's
it's the other thing, the interesting thing about producing electronic music on a laptop is that you kind of have no other option because most of these EDM producers are on the road a lot or traveling, or they're just not in the same spot all the time.
Right.
So it's like the laptop is just the easiest is the easiest kind of way.
And a lot of those guys pay people to do it for them. I mean, let's not. Well, I mean, but there's a reality. And that's that's not a secret.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think a lot of people have a misconception is like, oh, they're ghost producers, or they have ghost producers, like, oh, it's not them. But while that is completely valid, and if you look at it from like a producer's perspective and making music for yourself and being passionate about that, it's great.
Yeah.
But now take those glasses off and put on a different pair of glasses that show you it from a business perspective, where you have this X producer or duo, whoever, you think of that as a brand. If they're out making a 6-figure or a high 5-figure number per show, does it make more sense for them to be in the studio making music that might not be as good, and then that impacts their tour sales, or do they get the hit? Don't spend that much time in the studio. That's not what they want to do anyways.
And that doesn't. What bothers me about it, I mean, if we compare it to the pop world, okay, let's say it's a Lady Gaga record, just because I watched her documentary, so she's in my head right now.
Yep.
So when you see, okay, the cover art, the title of the album says Lady Gaga, and it's a Lady Gaga record. But if you look at the credits, it's very clearly credited who the producers are, if there are other writers involved. I mean, she's actually amazing, so she doesn't have 12 writers on a track. But the point is, it's very credited.
Yeah.
With I think the dance world, it's not. And people are also really cagey about it. They don't like people knowing that they didn't do it themselves.
Yeah.
And that's icky to me, because I think most, not all, but I would say most people in the, not to age myself, but like the traditional music production world, for the most part, they're pretty open about collaboration.
Yeah.
Because everyone, and I think it's also, you need to be in a studio, you need a giant team behind you.
Yeah.
And then this modern day, you theoretically can do it in your bedroom on your laptop.
Yeah.
So people don't want to admit that there are people behind the curtain, because somehow they feel like that's going to make them less valuable. But the truth of the matter is, I feel like lying about it makes you way worse.
It's an interesting line that these guys have to travel, because in the EDM scene, or electronic music, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, it's great music.
Sometimes.
Exactly. And debatable.
Yeah.
But you have a kind of a culture that, in terms of at least making music, that it's seen as something to like wear on like your sleeve. Like, I'm a producer, I make music, I make my own tracks.
Yeah.
And it's okay to openly bash like another producer that doesn't make their own music, because it's like, oh yeah, that dude's like, it's a fake. Like, fuck him.
Well, it's only fake when you lie about it.
True.
Like, it's funny. I just saw some. There's a new masterclass, like the masterclass series. Yeah.
Which one did you watch?
It's a dance music producer that's coming out, and
I know you're talking about.
It's a DJ, and it goes behind his production, and it was really funny because the trailer is like, and this is how I make this, and this is how I make this, and I'm just saying like, no, you hire this other guy, because that's actually how you do it, and it pisses me off that they're marketing this, and they're actually selling content based on how to make a track that he doesn't do, and they're using him as the face of that. That to me is just very morally ambiguous. I understand he is the brand. So from a business side of it, of course, they're going to sell a lot of them.
Yeah.
But morally, I find that a little bit corrupt.
But what about from the perspective of take this person, and we both know who the person is, and assume that they produce, and assume that they do a little more than hire this person. Like, assume like is if it becomes 50-50, or if it becomes like 30-70, where the 30 is for the brand, does that alter the perception?
I think you should be honest about what you're doing, because otherwise it's misleading and misrepresentative of what you do. And I understand, when you're running a business, there are certain marketing things you need that are going to make the brand look stronger.
Yes.
And maybe it's my own thing.
Yeah.
But I feel you should be honest about the way you work.
Yeah. And also, you as a producer, that's your fundamental ethos.
Of course. I mean, that's just how I function. And I also don't work with other people because I have a hard time with that. So
you're like, it needs to sound this way. No, not that way. This way.
Mm-hmm. No, it's funny. Like,
it needs an exponential curve 5 times to make it extra transient.
When I've worked with other people, other producers, other art, whatever, 9 times out of 10, it's just like, just move. Let me do it, please, because I can just do it in 30 seconds while you're trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, that's the one of the things I've also had to learn of in terms of just like delegating, like how to like manage everyone's workload better. And like, if I'm like collaborating, like all right, like if this person's doing something a little too slow, like how can I either get them to speed up and do what I need them to do, or how can I do it without coming off like as invasive? And sometimes like in the collaboration process, it's a hard line.
Yeah, I mean, given it's a different role, what you do and I do, but I've always found if people are just direct, there's no bullshit, then everyone functions smoother, I think. And if someone takes it personally, like, oh, he was mean. He wasn't mean. He just said fix it. Yeah. Like, get over it. It's not personal at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. And it's kind of a little bit of like exactly what you touched on. It's a different, the roles that you and I play, similar but different. So the way I might approach something would be one way, because I think that might be the most beneficial. But in your case, and in your environment, when you're in that zone,
Oh, yeah.
being direct like that is actually the best. And obviously there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times where in my scenario that's easier as well, but sometimes you kind of have to manage people's emotions a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Because if you're not managing people's emotions, sometimes you who knows if the person you're working with might start to feel resentment about something, or maybe they really like something that they were doing, and then you poo-pooed it unintentionally. It's an interesting line.
Yeah,
it's an interesting line.
Yeah.
When you do collaboration, and I know you don't do it very often, what are the strong suits to you that you
the strengths of it?
Yeah, like
hearing something I wouldn't have thought of, getting me out of my head. There are times when you're in the room with musicians who are really skilled, like
virtuosos.
But like if someone like Heather Bright comes over and, she's such a gifted songwriter, there have been plenty of times where it's just me sitting at the piano and she's singing, or a guitar or whatever. And it's one of those moments of, oh, this is what it was like in the 70s. That feels amazing.
We're just like meshes and connects.
Yeah. And that's I feel like a really lost art these days. So that's where I get a lot out of it. I refuse to do it if it's not in person. I won't do online collaborations or anything like that because you feel too disconnected. Then you end up having fights over emails and whatever. It takes so long just to get one thing done.
Is there a scenario that you would do like cloud collaboration on?
At a demo at NAMM? No. No, I just don't like it. For me, it's the same as I don't like working in front of a computer all the time. I need to be in the person of somebody else, because the most exciting moments are when you're just feeling that rhythm off of each other and, creating on the fly. And you don't get that if people are doing it on their own time. Yeah. In different cities.
And the human interaction element.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be human.
You need to be in the room. I mean, I feel like we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Society as kind of a whole is in this interesting shift right now where in the last 10 years, you've had such an onslaught of social media. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately and fortunately, it's only now coming to light, the true dangers of it.
Oh yeah.
I know you and I have kind of altered kind of what we have to do a certain way so we don't get trapped into the social media thing. I was telling you how I was taking notes physically. I completely eliminated the note-taking system on a computer, and now I only use notes on my computer in terms of archive, but in terms of brain retention from initial writing, it's got to be pen and paper.
Yeah.
It's got to be pen and paper.
Well, it's the same thing as the only way you remember someone's name is if you say it back to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same kind of thing.
The funniest thing is when you forget someone's name and then you are waiting for someone to say it.
Oh my God. I know. Well, fortunately, thanks to modern times, we say yeah, man, good to see you, man. You can kind of get away with that.
Hey, dude.
Yeah. You don't need the actual name, but I always feel really bad about that.
Yeah, and then you're just I know I should know it, but I feel bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then usually, if they walk away, I'll just ask someone next to me, what? Who is that again? And
I've had those times where it's been my best buds, and I'll be like, who is that? And I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah,
and then it's just oh God.
Yeah.
What have we gotten into?
Well, that's not a byproduct of social media by any means, but I think through the ages, everyone's had that issue.
Yeah. I mean, my tangent wasn't an extension of social media, more of just a tangent that wasn't even part of that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I don't know how a kid that grows up in social media today is supposed to function in a normal world that doesn't.
Well, I think we have to redefine what normal is.
Yeah, it's true. What is normal today?
I think the way everything's evolving, normal is this very online-driven society. And then if you're kind of, in a way...
It's almost the tables have turned.
Yeah, well, it has. I mean, because this is the new normal. Yeah. And if you're acting, to use this analogy again, more analog in this new digital world, in a way, you kind of become the outsider to that.
It's true. It's oh, what do you mean this is an observation that I've made, at least in my own personal things, is Herb's always been on my back to use the phone, like call, and it's
absolutely,
it's 100% true.
People don't like using the phone at all.
There's literally a call anxiety, and I had it too. And there's times where I still get it.
It's like, why?
It's just part of it. I mean, it's you come up in a generation where you're always texting each other. There's no auditory communication.
Right.
You're reading and typing, and it's.
See, again, I would much rather pick up the phone and call somebody than text for half an hour when it's just so much easier and quicker. Have a 30-second conversation and you know exactly what's going on. And then on top of it, people misconstrue everything through text because there's no tone.
There's no tone. It's all monotone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'll see you later. Like, okay, cool.
Absolutely. And then they're like, oh, he said, I'll see you later. Is he mad at me?
Everything is so just hyper-analyzed.
It's so hyper-analyzed, and it's just...
And it's unhealthy for everyone, because everyone does it.
Yeah. I feel like it makes everyone more insecure.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's just, nope. I understand, many of the gifts that technology has given us, but removing human interaction, that is a very negative side effect.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just people's choice at this point.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I was watching a video, I think on, ironically, Facebook, maybe a week ago. And the ironic part of it, it was a Facebook executive, an old Facebook executive on there. He was giving a talk somewhere. And he was almost on the verge of tears because he felt personally responsible for just this Facebook ecosystem monster that has been created.
I'm sure.
Because the way he looked at it as, there were now like third world countries that were organizing protests and like killings and stuff on Facebook and using the platform to find people and to like not exploit, but like really like harm people because for whatever reason at the time in wherever they are, they were using it as their organization tool, and he felt completely guilty.
But then on top of it, people put their entire lives on Facebook.
Yes.
So you open yourself to a lot of exposure and a lot of vulnerability by doing so, and especially now where you have a generation of children who are growing up with these tools, like as in they've never known the world without them.
Yeah.
That it's normal for them that everyone puts up everything. There is no sense of privacy anymore. And not, there necessarily has to be, but there's certainly an element of safety, I think. And then on top of it, certainly on like the bullying side, bullying was bad enough when I was in school.
Yeah. I mean, when you were going to school, you were bullied maybe from 8 a.m. to 3:30 by the time you got home.
Yeah.
And it was done.
When you're home, you're safe.
Yeah. But now
you're never safe.
You go on your device, Instagram, you got comments, likes, your messages. Like, I'm so happy that I wasn't like that stage of life is over. Because it's not fun.
No, it's miserable. And imagine having to live that now 24/7.
Yeah.
Because you're never safe at that point.
Yeah. It's like, it's scary that even having like the cell phones that you and I both have, having them on can sometimes give some anxiety. And having it off can also give anxiety because it's like, what if someone needs to reach me?
Well, and then it's the fucked up thing now where we have phantom buzzes or phantom rings.
Dude.
Like, the minute a device is doing that to you where you feel essentially like
an impulse.
Hallucinogenic impulses that aren't really there because you're thinking someone's calling you or something, that's dangerous. That's like, it's chemically affecting you.
It is. I mean, I can't imagine the repercussions of waking up and the first thing you do is just consume yourself with essentially other people kind of like humble bragging.
Yeah.
Oh,
totally. Just the distorted lens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's not even that you might be going and looking at the stuff because you generally have an interest in them. Like, for me personally, I have a huge interest in watches and cars. So my Instagram page, hi Kat, my Instagram page has a bunch of people that have really nice watches and really nice cars, but that's because I enjoy it. But but just a lot of people will be like, that's what I need to get. That's what I need to get right now, and they actually do more damage to their own mental.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, you're constantly comparing yourself.
Exactly. Like, you're never good enough.
Yeah, you're never good enough because you're only seeing this false image.
Yeah, what do you mean I don't have a six pack? Oh, what do you mean I don't have a Lamborghini? Oh, what do you mean I don't have a house? Yeah. What do you like?
People don't actually post their real lives.
Yeah.
They post the highlights or misrepresentations of themselves that they want people to see so that they look better and people think they're higher. Like, it's so twisted.
It really is, and we're at a stage now where you kind of have to do it.
I don't think you do.
From a brand perspective.
Well, okay. And see, that's where, this is where it's interesting also because, it's something I suck at doing and don't really understand it and I don't really want to because I just don't, but I know I need to. But I mean, professionally, you do this. You have to know how to manipulate a crowd or gain a following and not even just gain it, retain it, spread it.
I mean, there's like, I don't want to say a science to it, but it kind of comes down to a science. I mean, the other scary part is if you stop posting, you become irrelevant.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing.
It's a rat race to keep going.
Yeah,
and now, however you want to look at it, everyone's branding themselves. Yeah. So everyone will always be posting.
Yeah,
and if anyone has even the smallest like professional direction, like if someone's in the automotive field, if someone's in culinary, like they're going to be posting and they're going to try to give themselves some kind of brand.
Yeah, of course,
because that's only going to better themselves, and it's. Maybe just the way I think of it. Maybe not everyone thinks of it that way, but
right.
The way I look at it is just like if you have this, go out and do it. But it's unhealthy. It is unhealthy because even me, like there are times it's like, oh, I haven't posted anything in a while. Like let me post something. Mm-hmm. Like part of that is my passion for photography, and I like taking pictures and like showing it to the world.
Yeah, sure.
But it's a real anxiety sometimes, and it's unhealthy, and it's something I'm mindful of. But it's something I'm just aware of. Like the social media anxiety.
How do you guys handle that in the context of the show?
In regard, like just social anxiety in terms of Pensado?
I mean, fortunately, what you have going, you have constant content.
Yes.
And you can always chop up little bits out of 45 minutes and,
repurpose.
Repurpose them all the time. But even just on like the branding side, because you basically brand as an educator, more or less.
Yeah, the Pensado's Place is an educational talk show.
Yeah,
that's the way it is branded.
Right, but it's very high level education, and it's an industry like inside job, and that. But how do you? I don't know if you're necessarily. Have you tried to, out of curiosity, grow beyond that?
In terms of
like more widespread exposure.
So we are mindful of that, and that's kind of the mindfulness has actually shaped the show.
Yeah.
Because if we weren't mindful of it and we wanted to be like an educational talk show that deals in pro audio, and we had internal discussions about this for a long time. Not a long time, but we were getting comments from a lot of people anytime anytime we put up content they wouldn't like, the comments let us know right away.
Yeah, of course.
The comments and it usually you'll get a show that will have really good philosophy and then people want more technical.
Yeah.
And
I've noticed that too.
And then you get some technical and some people are happy, but it's not the same. You can get the same. Technical is technical.
It's a lot less interesting, I find.
Yeah, you can go anywhere for technical, but you can't really go that many places for aspirational and just
the psychology behind people.
Exactly. We've actually heard from a lot of people that listen to the show is like they might play it in the car or something, and their spouse will be like, "Wow, this is just so interesting. I just love listening to you guys because it's not technical. Like I can follow you guys and actually enjoy the interview."
Yeah.
And of course, like when we had Jason Joshua on maybe like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
He had a really great show in terms of balancing the technical and philosophical, but it was a really technical driven show, and the comments like that a lot. But you got to have a healthy balance of both, because if you don't, then it just doesn't work out.
Right.
Because people come in to tune in to the show because they like it. They like Dave's personality, like Herb's personality. They like their chemistry, their energy, the guests who we have on.
Sure.
And
where do you foresee yourselves taking the show?
So that's actually a really good question. We have not a really good question, but it's a great question. So this year we partnered with NAMM.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing this thing called NAMM Jam.
Okay.
So the full details are going to be coming out shortly, but essentially we'll be partnering multiple days with NAMM in the afternoon, kind of putting together like an afternoon hang. We're going to kind of build out like a Good Morning America stage. Okay. It's going to be a great time. We're going to stack in a bunch of guests.
Cool.
And it'll be a blast. We've got a bunch more travel this year for domestic and international.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're supposed to go to India.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's going to be a trip.
Yeah. So we're supposed to be doing Mumbai and New Delhi. So
nice.
That'll be a blast. We're starting to partner with a company called ImstaFesta, which we did in Toronto.
Yeah, the plugin company.
Yeah.
Kind of plugin representative.
Yeah, so there's two things. ImstaFest itself are live events where their purpose is to teach people.
Okay.
So what they'll do is they'll get a bunch of like plugin companies that they'll bring their reps out. They'll take over whatever space they do, and they'll have all these different gear reps like teaching people the software. So they might have people from Isotope, IK, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And then on top of that, they also have panels and like workshops throughout the whole day that are longer, not just kind of like here's a 15-minute drill down on the plugin, and people love it. So we're going to be doing a lot of those with them this year. The roster that they have, it's like LA, Berlin, Seoul, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be
that's a lot. Yeah,
it's going to be a really interesting year. At the top of the year, we're going to be at NAMM. We're going to be working with Avid.
You are doing that too.
So
okay, cool.
So NAMM this year is going to be crazy.
Yeah, that's a busy year.
It'll be crazy. Pensado Awards 5. We'll see.
Right.
Pensado Awards 4 was
it only just happened.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. You can't even say the acronym PA5 yet. It doesn't feel right.
Too soon.
It's too soon. But it could be something else for in February. So who knows?
Right.
But what we really want to do with the show is take the show to a new direction, or not new direction. We want to elevate it. We want to just continue to raise the brand standard. We want to refresh it. We want to introduce new segments. We just want to come into 2018 as a whole new Pensado's place.
Really?
Yeah. So
can you elaborate on what's going to make it new?
We're going to be doing a lot different stuff on YouTube. We're still doing.
Really?
We're still. I mean, we're still going to be doing the week. We're still like Pensado's place as itself is not changing. Just what's in that is changing.
Right. Okay.
So like the episodes, the ITLs.
Yeah.
We're making. We're making choices and like doing things that ultimately the viewers are going to really like.
Yeah. Okay.
Changing like some directions. Like the viewers are going to be excited for what 2018 has to offer for Pensado's place, because we've realized we've had such a great 6 years so far, but we want to continue to do it for another 6. So we want to just bring this. Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking, because like in the case of in the layers, I mean, you've done 348 of them now. So
346 episodes and like I think 173 ITLs, but yes.
Okay, so it's a lot. And then I was like, how many new things can Dave come up with on, a weekly basis because I mean, let's not kid ourselves. We're just doing the same things a lot of the time, over and over. It's not like you're reinventing the wheel every week. So not on the show, but like, personally, like when you're working. Yeah. So how do you balance that? How do you keep creating content out of the necessity?
That's an interesting thing. It's really just coming up with additional segments, coming up with new ways to look at things. Maybe it's just a whole new editing style. Maybe it's a new look to the show in terms of just how when the show comes up and the intro rolls, like everything that happens from before that everything that happens after that, and then everything that happens right before the credits. Like in that block is where all the fundamental differences like will happen, and the viewers will like it.
Just wondering too. I mean, I know you can't speak for Dave for this because you're not Dave, but I wonder if he's actually, because he's had to do an ITL, he's had to think of a new technique on the fly, and maybe consequently because he had to create something for the sake of content for the show, he actually ended up finding a new technique for himself that he actually later used that he never. I think he's definitely done that. What I know personally to be true is, excuse me. Yeah. A lot of the times he will be mixing, and Dave's always trying new things. He's got a great set of assistants, Rafael Fadul and Nico Hamui. Shout out to you guys. Where they'll just tinker and play around. They'll find new plugins, find new effects, find new chains. Like they're always coming up with like new things. And ironically, the stuff that Dave does in his mixes are what makes it into the ITLs. Yeah. So these ITLs every week are literal
just
it's a literal window into what he's doing at that moment.
Yeah, like you understand who Dave is. You know the records he's done. You know his sonics. You know the level he's at.
Right.
Here's a literal snapshot at what he's doing. I mean, we recently did an ITL with him, and he mixed a Don Diablo song.
Yeah.
And that's when you're doing the ITL, it's cool. And then when you hear it on the radio, or when you're out not even expecting it, and the song comes on, and then you hear a part that you talked about, and you kind of deep down think into it, you're like, oh wait,
yeah, because then you have that personal connection to it. Like you have that, the secret.
It's exactly like that. I mean,
I gotta ask him because 2 weeks ago when I was in his room, I saw he has we were talking about guitar pedals for a bit.
Yeah.
But he's got an old Boss HM2, which is like the Swedish death metal pedal.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that's like all the Swedish death metal bands, especially in the early 90s. Like the sound of it was that Boss pedal. You just basically turn every knob all the way to 100.
Just to overdrive everything.
Everything goes to 11,
Got it.
But I want to know what he's actually used that on before, because I've actually been waiting for like a custom job of a clone of one of those for like 11 months.
Oh, really?
Oh, dude, you don't...
I apologize.
But it's so cool looking. I mean, it's like this metal enclosure that has a chainsaw two chainsaws chopping off a head.
What the hell?
It's really metal. Like, no pun intended. But
metal.
But it's an HM2 clone, just with just handmade.
That sounds awesome. To speak on guitar pedals, in the ITL, Dave actually used an auto wah on the synth vocoder that Don Diablo put in, and he was shaping the auto wah. So when the synth would get to the last, I don't know, like 2 quarter notes, it would start to wind down, and he had to actually play it back a few times, and
perform it,
and he had to perform it so he could get it right. And then when you heard it in the record, you're like, it works.
Oh, I mean, I do that shit all the time. That's what makes it fun. You can't do that with a plugin. Like you can, but
but you're gonna draw a lot of lines.
You don't feel it. Yeah, you draw it in. Like, okay, no, just like actually piping it out of the box and twisting the knobs and feeling the physical interaction with the sound as you do it. You can't replace that with anything.
Do you comp your takes on different passes?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I'll retrack. I mean, obviously, if I'm recording an instrument, I'm gonna multi-track or just retrack that over and over and over, and then comp it to whatever sounds best. But even if I'm doing like effects passes or stuff with synths or whatever, I'll do that a lot until I actually just get the articulation right or the performance right, so to speak, and then that's what'll, if I have to comp it together, I will.
Dude.
But I'd rather get the performance. If I can do it, I'd rather do it that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll comp if I have to.
Yeah,
sure.
It's one of those things. Do you have a favorite pedal right now?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I mean,
shout out to last week's guest.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the Dwarfcraft stuff I adore. They make a lot more than fuzz pedals. But what speaks to me, I love distortion of all kinds. And that's just what I like. So I have 3 of their fuzzes, and they all sound different, and they are all brutal in different ways. But I love distortion just for the sake of creating new textures out of a sound. And
are you a even or odd harmonic distortion guy?
Both. Either. Whatever sounds good.
Do you have a preference that you end up going towards more? Or you just see what works? You see what sounds good?
My preference is sheer brutality.
Metal.
But then I have this other... The newest one I got is... It is a distortion pedal, technically. It's called Brothers. It's made by Chase Bliss Audio.
Okay.
And it's a dual distortion, but either side of it has modes for a clean boost. It's not clean, though. It's very colored. A clean boost, distortion, or an overdrive, and then a fuzz. And then the right channel is that, but a different kind of circuitry.
Nice.
But what's cool about it is if you have them both enabled, there's a knob in the middle with a switch underneath it. And if the switch is all the way to the left, you can mix between the two. If it's in the middle, you're cascading the left channel into the right channel. And if you have it flipped all the way to the right, then you're cascading the right channel into the left channel. So you can create these really interesting distortion textures because... I mean, it's just different ways.
Yeah, you can just blend.
Yeah, blending, but also just, it's not just blending. You're like, in serial, just running a signal they can flip between two different distortion algorithms really quickly, and they sound good. So I like that a lot. And they have a delay pedal called the tonal recall, which is like a bucket brigade delay with a tap tempo, but on top of it,
tempo.
Haha. But it also, you can send it a CV clock.
Oh, wow.
So I can clock it to Pro Tools, which is, I've never seen that in the analog delay pedal before.
That is actually really cool. I was at a Samash right before this. I had to drop something off.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the guitar pedals, ironically. No, I don't even play guitar, so it's just coincidence. And they had this one really cool guitar pedal there. It was called the Topanga Spring Reverb.
Oh.
And it was...
Who made it?
You know what? I don't know. Yeah. I'd have to Google it, but I'm right in the Topanga area, so it was just home. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would have a spring reverb.
Yeah, I mean, the Topanga sound, the spring reverb, like that. You can't really beat a spring reverb.
You can,
but if you're going for that sound, it's just like butter.
Eventide forever. The only reverb. No, it's not the only reverb that matters, but I just love. Are you
sure?
Yeah, it's my. I have a heart. It's my favorite.
What about Valhalla?
No.
What?
No.
Come on.
No. Like Valhalla is great for like quick and easy, and like it sounds good. I use it. It's not as lush as Eventide hardware. There's no way.
Well, okay, yes, yeah.
There's no way around. Yeah, of course. Like I can have theoretically 400 Valhallas in any session if I wanted to.
Hypothetically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have 2 Eventide reverbs at home as far as like hardware, so I'm limited to that.
Yeah.
And I still use the Eventide reverb plugins too. I mean, to be honest, I use all the Eventide shit just in general because I just love it. But
if you were to go plugin, would you go Eventide or would you go Valhalla?
Depends what kind of reverb you want.
That's a good. Well, what do you like the Eventide stuff for?
Big spacey reverbs.
Big spacey reverb.
Yeah, huge and open, modulating, giant. I don't really like real reverb too often. I find it kind of boring.
I mean, what I've observed of your music is you have a very distinct atmosphere that you place things in.
Yeah,
like it's like when you put on a Matt Lang song, you know it's a Matt Lang song.
Yeah,
like it's great. Like you have this way of articulating glitch and just different sound effects that it's just so creative and rhythmic. You just murder it.
Thanks.
So then to switch gears to Valhalla, what would you use Valhalla for?
I've used it on snare reverbs,
like non-lin, or
no. I've used the Valhalla vintage verb in hall mode or plate mode on occasion. Although now usually on a snare if I want like a big rock snare. Like I have a soft spot for like gated 80s snares.
Yeah.
I'll use the UAD, not the 140, the other plate.
250?
Yeah, the 250. I like the black one.
Yeah.
I like that one. That's kind of my go-to snare verb.
Okay.
Valhalla wise, I use it a lot for actually effects.
Really?
Yeah, just audio suite style. Like I'll just take a thing and just like blow it out to 50 seconds of reverb or whatever, print it, because for that stuff, it sounds great. I find the Valhalla stuff can get a little bit murky.
A little bit, yeah.
Whereas the hardware reverbs I find are typically a little bit cleaner or a little bit more open. Do
you find yourself using that stuff on synths?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I track with it.
Nice.
Yeah, like a lot of. I think of it like playing guitar through guitar pedals. Like
yeah, you're marrying the sounds.
Yeah,
you're printing.
This is part of the sound, and the same thing too. It's way different if you have. Well, just thinking about signal flow, like distortion after versus distortion before a delay or a reverb completely changes the timbre of something.
It does.
Before an amp.
Yes.
Like, so for instance, like when you take say you take a Fender Strat, and you put that delay pedal on in front of your Fender Twin, you can't replicate that if you just tracked the guitar and then put a delay after.
Yeah.
It sounds so different. So completely. And different's fine, but sometimes you want that where the delays are actually getting amplified and distorted after and then consequently compressed.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is a lot of times, like when I'm tracking synths, be it a Juno, modular, whatever, usually I actually have that whole rig running through all the pedals.
Interesting.
And
are you molting at any stage to give you like a clean signal, or are you committing and just going with it?
No, I'm committing.
Nice.
Because otherwise I'm just going to have extra stuff that I'm probably not going to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are times where I'll record a clean pass and then I'll record a affected pass if I really want to be more.
Yeah, because you're an excellent guitar player, so that's no problem just to like retrack it down.
Actually, that's the different way. There's a different when I do guitar.
Oh, so what you're saying right now was not a guitar.
No,
that was just general.
Yeah, I'm just talking like general sense, whatever. No, a guitar actually. I'll track it as a DI. I'll monitor through the whole chain. So that way, at least I hear what it sounds like. But,
clean.
But it records actually just the DI into Pro Tools.
Nice.
And then I'll go and I'll edit actually the DI so that it's tight and perfect because I'm pretty anal about
the rhythm,
the timing and everything. Then once I have the DI totally edited, and I'll often be editing it, still listening through the chain.
Yeah.
Sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll just listen to the DI, but that's kind of bland. So I just want to have more fun. But then I'll reamp it.
Nice.
And I'll just send it through like one of those radial reamp boxes that'll go through all the pedals into the...
Are you hip to the Line 6 Helix?
Yeah, Dave was talking about that.
Are you a fan?
No. I got a copy of it when it was in beta. I have an Axe FX.
Oh, yeah.
And so if it's going to be a guitar amp sim, it needs to sound... For me to want to use it, it has to sound as good or better. And I'm yet to find something that does. Aside from, I mean, I have like a Mesa rectifier in the studio too, and that sounds I mean, that's a real amp. And I mean, to be honest, I get better, more professional sounding recordings if I use the Axe FX.
Nice.
But for sheer fun, fuck, man.
Dude, I know.
You know, like a real tube amp, you know, where you're like shaking the walls and you feel the air moving. There's nothing like that, you know?
Yeah.
So you guys are doing NAMM. I guess NAMM's in only 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
What day is it today? Do we want to timestamp
Today's
this?
the 2nd.
Today's the 2nd.
Yeah.
So, today's the 2nd. So we're down. NAMM starts the 25th and it ends on the 28th.
Yeah.
And we have our first thing on that Thursday. So
cool.
The countdown's already real. And
right.
We just came back from trying to get a little bit of downtime for the Pensado Awards.
That's right.
Which was its own animal.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. I mean,
its own animal.
It's a big production when you guys do that.
Yeah, I mean, by the end of it, it comes down to about like 7 teams all working together in sync, and all the decisions kind of like have to make all the decisions we make in the end have to serve it so the night is as good as possible. Like we get as much impressions as we can, and that overall just what we're doing just feels right.
Yeah.
And like when the awards start taking shape, the first time the Pensado Awards ever becomes an idea is usually about 8 months before the night,
the actual execution of it.
Yeah. And it usually starts off with Herb maybe starting to think of some great moments or some stuff where like, okay, we have like these are gonna be the host, or we want that person to be a host, or just kind of like that. And then once that kind of runway has been set, and we know like, okay, the Pensado Awards are this far out. We have this much time left. These are where everything's at. Then it's like go time. But up until so from I would say from about month 8 to maybe 4. There, it's like more speculative, kind of thinking around the head, throwing around ideas. But then once it kind of hits that 4-month mark, maybe
you actually have to get your shit together.
Yeah, and not get the shit together in the sense that it's not together. It's in the sense of just all right, like it's go time. Like,
that's what I mean. You have to start executing.
Yeah, like all the packages start to have to be created. We have to send out the different ballots so people can submit for the Pensado Awards.
Right.
We have to then we have to send out all the submissions we got in to the pro committee, and then the pro committee will vote amongst themselves, send back their ballots, and then that's how the awards are created. But of course, that needs runtime because you have to have all the packages ready.
Yeah, sure.
And those packages take time, and then once all the packages are created, then you have to just sequence it out, make sure everything's level matched, and then once all the technical aspect of it is done, but by the time the technical aspect is done, it's usually this year it was a few days out. Some years it's different, but there's about like a 72 hour window where it just gets super real.
Yeah.
And it's like go time. And you know it, like when you've got like a big show that you've kind of been preparing for, and you know it's like, all right, I have to kill it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the viewers know we've been having this delicious Belching Beaver Deftones Phantom Bride India Pale Ale.
Yeah.
It's got 7% alcohol. It's
well, to be fair, I drank that one already, so now I have an Alpine Hoppy Birthday.
Okay, so apparently I'm just the lightweight, and he's surpassed me in my beer consumption. You can also
add professional beer drinker to the name. But then before that, we had the Smog City Coffee Porter, which is like the best porter ever.
Yes. For all the avid beer drinkers out there, these are definitely a must try, and you guys will like them
if you can get them. I mean, we're so spoiled because California.
Yeah, if you want a good place to live, California is a good place.
Yeah, I would recommend it.
And LA, and specifically, I don't know if I could live anywhere else.
I wouldn't.
It's home.
Is there anywhere else you'd consider living?
Actually, yes.
Where?
Tokyo.
Okay, that's not surprising, actually. Yeah, that makes sense.
Tokyo.
Yeah, you spent a lot of time there.
I'm going back in March, but in 2 weeks... No. 2 years ago, we were there for 3 weeks. With the girlfriend and I. We visited her family, had an amazing trip, ate more ramen and sushi than we could ever imagine, and I legitimately fell in love with the city.
Yeah.
It had this energy. Maybe it's just the fact that it was a culture shock that I had not been exposed to. I mean, as a kid, I traveled to Europe a little bit, but I was too young to really appreciate it. So this was like my first kind of real adult trip on my own, like going out to girlfriend to Japan. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's amazing.
And just being there, there's such a respect for the city and everyone else that you kind of don't find here. It's like a littering thing too. Mm-hmm. Like when you're not gonna be throwing stuff away in Japan, like on the trash. You have trash cans. People are super mindful, just how it is.
Yeah.
And like just to speak to the city itself, when you are going in a super populated area, if there are escalators, everyone that is standing is on the right side, and everyone that's running.
So you have a walking lane.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, amazing.
And it's literally, if you break it, like if you're like here in America, if you're standing on any part of the escalator, no one's gonna mow you down. But if you're in Japan or Tokyo. And at least this is just my experience. If someone that lives there experiences differently, please correct me. But what I experienced was people are going to mow you down, like get out of the way, move.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
like,
amazing.
Like because you have people running up the escalators and like just booking it to get where they need to go. And like if you're standing, like I just clipped your pre. Sorry,
that's okay. It's got a soft limiter on it.
It is very good. But yeah, Tokyo, I think, would be one of the places I could experience living. I have a huge passion for cars and the drifting thing. I love drifting, so it'd be
You're a real Tokyo drift.
I don't honestly. There's just something about being in a car that when it breaks traction and going sideways, and when you're in control of it,
the thrill of it,
it's a complete thrill because you are literally dancing a car around a street, or a parking lot or whatever you want to do. Shout out to the rain and all-wheel drive.
It scares the hell out of me.
It's okay. I have good tires.
Yeah. When you whipped over that hill going into Eagle Rock, it was like, oh, God.
The funny thing is I wasn't even that fast, but we don't need to scare the viewers. We want Matt Lang to live here.
The funny thing is, like, it's like 100 yards, not even like 50 yards between these like two streets, and you're throttling at full blast to the next stop sign. It's like, Jesus, man.
I enjoy driving. I have this stretch of road that I go to pretty frequently. It's up in the Calabasas, Agoura Hills area.
Yeah.
So you essentially start on Mulholland, going towards Las Virgenes, and you make a left up one of the canyons off of Mulholland, and it takes you up to Payuma. Okay. You take Payuma, and you basically get to the bottom of the road called Stunt Road, and this whole entire road. Basically, up until you basically will take the mountain, take the hill all the way up to the mountain, to the top, and then you're basically driving along the top of the ridge line. And on the right-hand side, if you're or whichever side you're driving on, one side is nothing but water.
Yeah.
On a clear day, you can see Catalina perfectly. And if it's a clear day on the left-hand side, you can see all the way to downtown. And then on the right, you can pretty much just see as far as you need to. And it's there are a lot of windy roads there. They probably shouldn't speed on, but the roads there are amazing for it. They're freshly paved, and it's just a blast. And it's just a great place just to detox.
Chongor Goncz, everybody. Go check out Pensado's place, where you can actually you can find Chongor doing the segment of the show called The Corner Office, where he answers fan questions. Also, go check out Tanya Zagar's album, Explode. You can check out my new record called Bleed Together. And if you're at NAMM, come see me there. See you next week.